Good afternoon. A very warm welcome to our online event today. We're broadcasting live here from Umbra in Swansea. It's definitely afternoon here. I know we have some attendees from other parts of the globe, so good evening or good morning, wherever you are. Thank you for joining us. We're excited to have you with us today, and the reason we're excited is because we have some exciting things to share with you. I'm Nigel. I'm the Managing Director at Umbra. I'll let Harry introduce himself.
Thanks, Nigel. Yeah, I'm Harry. I'm the Sales and Marketing Manager at Umbra. I've been here for nearly 9 years.
Thanks, Harry. I've been in the blinds industry for over 25 years, and during that time I've seen a lot of change, a lot of innovation, a lot of good things have happened. A lot of things have stayed the same too, but it's not often you see something that is truly innovative and groundbreaking. And that's why we're excited today to tell you about Zoomtech, which really is exactly that. And we're also going to hear from Bernard Mully, who is the owner of Bematech. They are the inventors and creators of the Zoomtech technology. So we've got a pretty full agenda that we're going to share with you. The event's going to run for approximately 45 minutes to an hour, depending on how many questions we get at the end. We're going to give you a very quick introduction to Umbra, who we are and what we do. Then we're going to talk a bit more about the whole challenge around roller blinds and tube sizes and deflection. And then we're going to take a poll of the audience to see what you think about those issues. Then we're going to run our new promotional video, which will be the official launch of this technology into the UK. Then we'll go a little bit deeper in a conversation with Bernard, who will tell us about how the technology came to be and the journey that they've been on, taking it from concept to commercialization. We'll then take another poll of the audience to see how you're feeling about this new technology. And we've got a couple of case studies where we've been able to install this new technology ahead of the launch in order to show you what a difference it makes in the real world. We'll wrap up then with a Q&A. So we would like to encourage you to participate. Thank you for joining us, and please join in. As I mentioned, we've got a couple of polls, so please cast your votes. Please let us know what you're thinking. And please ask questions at any point during the presentation. You can use the chat box. You should see the little chat icon at the bottom of your screen. Click on that and type away. Send us in your questions, and we'll answer as many as we can at the end of the event. And please get social. Here's our social links. Please join the conversation online after the event. This is big news for the blinds industry in the UK. This is something that really is revolutionary, and we want everybody to be talking about it, create a bit of a buzz online to get the market aware of it and the consumers aware that this solution is out there. So with that, I'm going to hand you over to Harry.
Thanks for that, Nigel. So Nigel's obviously used words like game-changing and innovative, truly unique, and we hear these words being used quite a lot in marketing, possibly overused in marketing, and it's not often that there's something that happens in an industry or in a market that actually genuinely does change things. And you look at things like the electric car or the bagless vacuum cleaner, things that in their industry, in their marketplace, change the way that people buy or people make buying decisions forever. And what we're about to do is we're about to bring to you something like that for the blinds industry. And we're incredibly pleased and proud that it's Umbra who's able to bring this to the UK blinds market. So with that, I'm going to hand you back over to Nigel.
Thanks, Harry. So just to give you a brief introduction to Umbra, who we are. I know that a lot of you already know us well and are already working with us, and we thank you for that. As you can see on the slide, Umbra means shadow, shade. That's what we're all about. We design and manufacture blackout and shading products here in our factory in Swansea. And our vision is to be a brand of choice at the mid to high end of the window treatment market, and particularly a go-to company for motorization and integration. So what we're really doing is building a brand that people want to be associated with, want to be part of, choose to have and include within their projects, in their homes and businesses, and to be that name, the first name that comes to people's minds when they're thinking of automating their shading, motorizing it, and integrating it with whether that's commercial building management systems or home automation systems. Umbra is the company to go to. And you'll see us talking about the power of and you can see the and sign in our logo, and you may wonder what that means. And it's about what we do and how we do it. So in terms of what we do, textiles and technology, as an industry, we're right at that junction where we're talking with interior designers about fabrics, colors, finishes, the whole look and feel and aesthetic, and the difference that we can make in a space, in a room, to those aesthetics. And then on the other hand, we're talking about technology, the hardware, the drives, the controls. And in the case of what we're talking about today, the way in which the hardware, the bit that you don't see, can really enhance the textile, the bit that you do see. And so the circle conveys how we bring all that together, the textiles and technology into one solution. That's the what we do. The how we do it, the power of and there is the way we work in partnership. So we work with dealers all over the UK and Ireland. We are a manufacturer, designer of products. We don't install any of our products ourselves. We work with our partners to get those products installed. We have a training academy here where we bring the partners for training to make sure that everything is done to the correct standard. So working together with our partners, including our supply partners, that's how we deliver that, again, that circle, that whole solution that ultimately delights the customers. So why would you choose to work with Umbra? Well, we're a carbon neutral company. We're members of Made in Britain, so we're very much about promoting local, sustainable manufacturing. We promote British industry and British jobs. We're a family business, third generation now. You can see in the little family tree there, my father started the business nearly 50 years ago, and as you can see there, Harry is my nephew, so we're into the third generation. And with that 50 years of family ownership and family management comes a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience, a lot of expertise. And that picture there is showing our academy, where we're sharing that knowledge and expertise via our training courses. And finally, that's our 30,000 square foot factory here in Swansea. And that gives us a lot of capacity. We control as much as possible of the manufacturing process in-house, which gives us flexibility, the ability to do short lead times, the ability to do bespoke and special requests to give you that exceptional level of service and support. With that, I'm going to hand you over to Harry. Harry will give you an overview of our product range.
Thank you very much, Nigel. That was good. So this event is about Evolve Zero. So it's about Evolve, and you'd be justified in thinking it's only about Evolve. But to understand Evolve Zero and understand Evolve, you kind of have to see the bigger picture. So I'm just going to give you a quick overview of our complete range. So we have three key roller blind products. We have Evolve, we have Helios, and we have Sirius. We then have three fully cassetted or fully framed systems, which obviously frequently will be used with blackout fabric, but not exclusively. Curolock and Extralock both have zipped edge side channels. Curo does not. And importantly, Curolock and Extralock share a number of the same components as the Evolve system inside the headbox. Likewise, with the roof blinds, we have three roof blind systems, and both the Curolock Twin RL and the Curolock RL also both share a number of Evolve components. We then have Helios RL, which is a non-zip, non-blackout roof light product. We then have Cascade, the electric Roman headrail, and we have Flow, the electric curtain track. So you can you start to see how Evolve has contributed to a number of our products, and it is Evolve that we want to speak about specifically today. We designed Evolve from a background of installation and manufacturing, and we've been working on it for a number of years to arrive at a product that we believe is both easy to fit and looks good. Now, as those of you who have bought Evolve, and thank you to those of you who have started to buy it since it's been launched, it seems to have been a success. But you'll know that there's a number of colours available with Evolve as standard. And you'll also probably realise that Evolve was designed specifically with motorised blinds in mind. The bracket cover to hide the motor head and the bearing completely for a very sleek look. Evolve also is available with the cassette or the head box, whatever you want to call it. That can also be custom coated to any colour of your choice because we do all our own in-house powder coating. Now that brings me on to two trends that we see being quite popular currently. Now these are two trends that each individually on their own have been growing over the last few years, and both of them have caused various challenges for the window treatment market. However, when both of these trends come together, then we actually have a much bigger problem in the window treatment market. So, popular trend number one is larger glazing and slim window frames. So, glazing areas have been getting larger and larger, and I think partly that's people realizing that natural light is good for you. It's nice to have natural light coming into a building, either commercially or residentially. And so areas of glazing have been getting bigger. And along with that, as glazing has got bigger, frames have got smaller. And so as a market, as a window treatment market, we've had to respond by making bigger blinds. Because generally speaking, people don't want multiple blinds on a single area of glazing. They don't want to split them. They don't want a gap. And so we've had to make bigger blinds. And the trouble with bigger blinds is generally you need bigger tubes. And one of the largest tubes that we use at Umbra is the 75mm tube. So this is quite a heavy duty, lots of splines inside, robust tube. And with this we would go up to widths of 4 meters wide. The problem is if you want to go wider than that, you start looking at rather enormous tubes like this one. So this is a 130mm tube. And the problem with both of these is size and weight. They're enormous. Nobody wants a tube that big in their window, especially when they've probably paid extra money to have slim frames and maximize their glazing. And so that has caused us a bit of a problem in the window treatment market. And you're probably going to guess what the next popular trend is. But of course, it's concealed shading. As glazing areas have got bigger, and as more and more companies have launched and developed these blind concealment pockets, we've definitely seen a massive increase in that. We've had a big increase in concealing blinds, people wanting to conceal blinds, architects specifying it, builders including it, incorporating it into a building or a specification. And that's fine, it's great, it looks really neat. But again, I think we've probably all arrived on site at some point, and probably a bit later than we would have liked to have done, and been greeted with the phrase of, oh, we need to conceal this, we've got a pocket ready built in, so we need the blinds to go in that, and your heart starts sinking immediately, thinking about what you're going to see. Sure enough, you get there, you get your tape measure out, you find that pocket is 100 by 100 mil, and you just know straight away that the blind that you need or want to put up in that window is going to be a really tight fit in that pocket, if it's even going to fit at all. And that is just a story that we see repeating itself over and over again. And of course, as I was saying, when you bring both of those problems together, the concealed shading and the large glazing, and you're talking about needing enormous tubes to counteract the deflection, how do you conceal something like that? You need to put this into the ceiling, into a pocket. This plus fabric wraparound, plus a hem bar hanging down that all needs concealing, it's going to need at least 200 mil. And more often than not, that just isn't available. And there just physically isn't the space in the ceiling build-up or in the void that's available. So you start to understand how how those two things come together and create this real problem that we have of hiding blinds away. Now that brings me nicely on to the topic of deflection. Now, most of you will have seen blinds that look like this. No doubt we've all got different names for it, whether it's fabric smiling or fabric festooning or whatever it is. It all fundamentally comes back to one root problem, which is the tube is bending. The tube is actually deflecting. And the important thing really to understand is that no matter how big a tube you go for, you suspend that tube between two brackets, and that tube will bend to a degree. So it doesn't matter how big you go, all you're actually doing is reducing tube deflection. You're not removing it. And so the aim, historically, ever since roller blinds were invented, really, is to make the tube big enough or strong enough to make the fabric look acceptable to the customer. That's kind of the goal, is how can we make this blind look acceptable to the customer? At what point are they going to say, yes, that's fine, I'm happy with that? And the problem is, along the way, we end up in this situation where we're having to make compromises. For example, because the right tube isn't available to us, or because the pocket size that's been allowed is simply too small for the size of tube that you need. And you make a compromise, and then you end up with more deflection than you'd actually want. And more often than not, clients are not happy, or you have to do some serious expectation management to arrive at a point where they are happy. And yes, I am this sad that I was on holiday in New York, and I just had to take this picture. I just looked up and saw this building and just thought, yeah, that just says everything. I've no idea what this building is or what the story is behind it, but all I do know is that it looked terrible from outside, and it probably looked just as bad from inside. And so that is the problem that we're facing. So with that, I'm going to hand you back over to Nigel to do our first poll and take the temperature.
Thank you, Harry. So poll number 1. Thanks for that, Harry. Poll number 1 is these challenges and issues that Harry's just been outlining to us. I want to get a feeling in the virtual room, as it were. If you're sitting there nodding away and going, yep, we know what this problem is, we come across it all the time, then you're going to vote frequently. If you're sitting there thinking, well, yeah, now and again we do come across this from time to time, then vote occasionally. And if you're sitting there thinking, no, this just isn't a problem for us, then give us a vote on the rarely. So you should have that poll on your screen now. Click away, send us your votes in, and let's see what the results are. Keep going, keep voting, join in, and we'll just give it a few more seconds. Are you a frequently, an occasionally, or a rarely with regard to these challenges? All right, let's close that down now and let's see what the results are. Okay, so that's interesting. We've got neck and neck, 44% frequently, 44% occasionally. So a massive 88% of you are saying, yes, this is a problem. Either frequently or from time to time, this is a problem. 13% are saying rarely. So that confirms what we thought. As I say, I've been in this game a long time, and that's why I was so excited when I saw this solution, because I knew that this was something that was needed for this problem. All right, so we'll move on now. We're going to play the official launch video. So this is our promo video for the Evolve Zero solution, and this is its premiere in the UK market.
The blinds industry as a whole has always had an issue with tube deflection. You're taking an aluminium or a steel tube, you're suspending it between a bracket at each end, you have no means of supporting it in the middle because it has to move, it has to roll. Over the last 10 years or so, we've seen glazing areas just getting bigger and bigger. Fantastic view out, fantastic at bringing the natural light in, but what so often isn't thought about is how are we going to control that natural light coming in? What you could do is you could put several blinds across that width, but you're always going to have a gap between fabrics, which is obviously a light gap, and it's also a privacy gap. Can't we have a blind that covers the whole thing? But then you start running into these challenges with deflection, because to do 5 meters wide on a roller blind, as a single roller blind, what, 120, 150 mil tube? You know, that's huge. So I don't want that on display. Okay, we're going to have to build it into the ceiling. Well, we haven't got space. How do we do that? So that is always the conversation that is happening, and it's usually happening too late. You've got this enormous span, and traditionally you need an enormous tube size to achieve that, or you split it into multiple blinds and you get all those problems with light gaps and privacy gaps. The solution that we have coming is really going to answer a very real problem currently in the blinds industry.
So I'm Bernard, from the company Bimatech. We are the inventors of Zoomtech. Customers are wanting to have the blinds bigger and bigger and bigger. Not to have 2 blinds, to have 1 blind. The expectations of customers were sometimes higher than we could just fulfill with the traditional system. And because a fabric, when you hang it on a tube that is a little bit bending, is giving this belly or this V shape. And that's not a nice thing to have. It's visibly not aesthetic. We were a little bit unhappy sometimes with not being able to fulfill the expectations of a perfect blind. Zoomtech is a gravity compensation system that is integrated into the tube of a winding system, and it is preventing the tube from deflection. So the tube isn't deflecting at all, and it is compensating all the gravity forces that are working into the tube. And now, so we are making customers happy. So not only customers, but also the architects and the people who likes the aesthetics and big windows, and so to have really a nice roller blind that is functionally looking very minimalistic, but with a perfect aesthetic. So if you want a better looking blind, and it's a little bit wider, then you should use the Zoomtech.
The office will upload the job into the internal system, which then will come through to this machine here, which is the Zoomtech machine. As you can see on the front here, you'll have a number of jobs that have already been complete. And the last job is the job that we are going to work on today. So you'll click into that, select it, and then what it will bring up is the tube length of what you require. Okay, so the tube is in now, so we'll press activation, followed by start, and then the machine will start feeding the tube through, align itself, and then start working automatically. Yeah, so basically what you'll see now is the Zoomtech machine will start working the printout for where the bearings need to go. Here's the first one. It's pretty much, marking exactly where you need the bearing to go. So these are the bearings, of which will be placed in the exact markers here. And then you've got the end bearing here that will be fixed into the end of the tube itself. That then slots in the end of this tube. And there you have it. One Zoomtech tube ready to be inserted into a blind tube.
We had a project here in the heart of Surrey that had 100 by 100 blind space boxes nicely installed, which looked really nice. We came and measured up for the blinds. We got them ordered up, and it was 3.5 wide by 1500 drop, so my first thought was it'll be fine. And actually, the 3.5 wide and the 1500 drop created a rolled up diameter. Even though it was less than 100 mil, it was still tight. And not only was it tight, but the hem bar didn't fit into the blind space box. We didn't know quite what to do, and we came across this groundbreaking technology, Evolve Zero, and we thought, right, let's give it a bash. Instead of a 65 mil tube, it was a 44 mil tube, and I thought to myself, nah, that's not going to work. I couldn't believe it. It looked like a tiny tube, and I thought this is going to deflect. Zero deflection. The hem bar disappeared perfectly into the blind space box. Client came and she couldn't believe it. There were no smiles on the fabric. It was absolutely perfection. We're now got the next phase, and we're now measuring up to 4.7 meter blinds by 2.7 drop. Fantastic.
Tube deflection is an issue. We work in high-end residential properties predominantly, where we have quite large windows. Tube deflection creates a festooning of the fabric.
There have been occasions in the past where it's been a real issue. As you start to creep up size-wise in a domestic installation, barrels get larger, brackets get larger, and in a commercial installation you can get away with that, but in someone's rear extension, they don't want a big clunky blind up there.
The traditional solution for this deflection is to use a more substantial tube, but this has its own issues in that it creates weight and bulk, and in a domestic environment those are two things that you want to try and avoid.
So large glazing is extremely popular with high-end residential clients, and obviously it's something that architects are specifying a lot, but often to try and shade that, especially if you don't want multiple blinds, you don't want light gaps, you want full blackout, it can be very challenging, and the solution at the moment is to go for a big tube to counter tube deflection, which obviously isn't a residential grade product. To be able to span these kind of widths with a product that's going to be aesthetically pleasing and it's going to link in with all of the other smaller windows that you have is hugely exciting.
At Umbra, we have a solution coming that is quite unique, quite groundbreaking, quite innovative. I was going to say defies physics, but actually it doesn't defy physics. It is physics, and it's a solution that actually eliminates deflection. This is actually a solution that takes quite a small tube size and then actually eliminates deflection. I know that there's going to be a lot of excited people, because I think as soon as we show it to people, they are going to go, I can see the possibilities of that.
So here it is. It's here. This blind is 5 meters wide. It's about 2.1 meters drop. It's on a 44 millimeter tube, and it is Evolve Zero. As you can see, as you look along the roller and eye it up to the edge of the ceiling to which it's fitted, you can see there is zero deflection. We're not here to talk about motors today, but one interesting point to note is that this is actually on a battery motor too.
So, I suppose the question is, which would you rather? The 130mm tube or the 44mm tube? So this is the 44mm tube that is on the blind behind me at 5 meters wide. Literally zero deflection.
Thanks, Harry. So we're now going to play a conversation that Harry had with Bernard, which talks about the journey that they went on over a number of years, from the concept of how they could overcome this deflection problem right through to how they solved it and how they created Zoomtech.
Perhaps, Bernard, you'd be so kind as to give me a 30-second overview of what Zoomtech actually is.
Yes, Harry. Thanks for asking. Zoomtech is basically a concept that, if I would say it in some words, it's a gravity compensation system. Yeah, it's just enhancing the quality of the products we make, being roller blinds, where we are compensating the deflection of the tube. We basically, the jagging of the tube, we are completely resolving so that there is no deflections of all. It's just like we take away the gravity and everything stays perfectly straight. So that's basically Zoomtech.
So we've learned about how it's done and seen the tube bending process, and we've seen how that goes inside the outer tube and how the it's very clever how it works, but that seems like it's going to add a lot of cost to the product. Do you see this as a residential only application?
It's not just a residential. So the middle to the high end residential, that's clear. The people, they like to have it nice. I mean, when you have a nice flat somewhere, you have several windows, you don't just want to have a product that doesn't have the perfect or the best possible view. So that's definitely an interesting market where we are actually quite selling a lot of this solution. So this is for us going very well. But we were quite surprised that even in projects, this solution is really asked. It is really demanded because it's coming with several other technical, let's say, possibilities that were not coming there before. So they often even they have in a building some limitations in the dimensions, where finally this solution is really also the best, even when the look is not the first important thing, but when also it comes to the only technical solution. Yeah.
Why did you decide that you could solve the problem? I mean, this has been a problem in the blinds industry for years, right? You know,
yeah.
Why you? How did you decide that?
You know, it's sometimes when you think about the things that are logical, then, or when you consider about the problem in a logical way, you just doesn't come to this outcome. Let's say like this. So I think we just were thinking a little bit out of the box and experimenting with something that wasn't expected to work, let's say like this. Yeah. But while playing with this and continuing playing with this, we came to a solution that we made finally work, but it took years. And when you ask me why, because I think we are making a great product, and we same as Umbra, where I really respect the way you are working, and you try to make, you're very specializing in a certain segment of the market, roller blinds. I think we have basically the same. Roller blinds is our main product. Yeah? So, and it's a product that when you came to bigger sizes, sometimes I was ashamed of the product that I've seen finally hanging, or not ashamed, that I was a little bit frustrated that it was not in that quality what I would like to see. It is more a kind of a frustration that brought us to continue looking for a solution to make it work. So, and
so you say it's taken years. When did you first come up with the out of the box idea?
2000, I think 2018, probably internally 2018, something like this, 17, 18 probably. We made the small things. The first one we made, it was very ugly. It didn't work. It made a lot of noise and things like this. But then by step moving, we came to something that a little bit worked. Yeah, but a little bit was still not enough. So then we finally made because we thought that it was something new, we had also to solve all this thing like defining and protecting the IP and registering the patent and so. And when we finally seen that it could have been a unique idea, we didn't know that it existed in our business, and it finally didn't exist. But before really massively investing in it, we had to do some the registration of it, and then we continued. We put a whole team on the project. So we had we created a Zoomtech Academy. Let's say there are about 4 people, and they are really scientific people playing with all these formulas and natural laws and things like this. We put them together to try to solve all the remaining problems that we had, and we basically came to the perfect solution that we knew how we can basically make it. But then that was the biggest challenge, because we knew how we can make it, but it took, let's say, 1 to 2 days to produce one. And that wouldn't be that much. It would be really for the happy few. Yeah. And then the challenge was to make an industrializational process to really be able to implement it in a production, that it just takes some minutes, or probably more than minutes, but that it can be done in a reasonable time, with an outcome that is sure, that when you start that you're sure that it will work. And that took us more than 3 years, to 3.5 years to develop, to make a machine, to come to a scale that it's possible to produce and then to put on the market.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you say we know it's special. How unique is it? How unique is Zoomtech? Is there anything else out there like that? We just checked what is available on the globe, on the world. So we haven't been in Mars and Neptunus, and so just there are something other things there. But let's say I've been on all sides of the world now in contact, and there is, as far as we know, and we spoke with all players, I think our most important players that could know it. Yeah, there's nothing similar exists. So it's really unique. You didn't check with any of the extraterrestrial IP offices? They were
not yet.
No,
we are
no.
trying, but they doesn't take the phone. I think we have some other communication lines. So yeah.
So at what size of blind would you recommend using Zoomtech? When does it become worthwhile?
It depends. The more technical the fabric is, the more it absorbs a kind of a deformation. When you have a lighter fabric that is a little bit less stiffer, then it can make sense, for example, from 2 meters. That's what we quite often do, from 2 meters on. Under 2 meters, it's exceptional that it really makes sense. Yeah? So from 2 meters on, it makes sense. And it is also, the higher you're going, it's also more necessary. So we make, for example, blinds from 3 meter or 2 meter 50 on 4 meters, then I would also definitely recommend to put the Zoomtech, because the height is also emphasizing the problem, let's say like this. It is also dependent on where it is installed. I mean, when you have just a smaller window and just the front view, you basically it won't bother you so much that it is a little bit hanging, because you just don't see it. When you can look at the window from 45 degrees and less, there usually it starts to be disturbing, and that's what customers are saying. So they're buying a blind, they like it, and then they go to the site, it's like a little bit, they don't like it too much, and that is, they say it's like unexpected and not wanted results. So, and you don't definitely want, we don't like our customers not being satisfied. So
we hear that. So people saying, it's not fit for purpose, or it's not acceptable. It's the classic case of a set of bifold doors, and with a right angle at the end, and people can kind of walk along the length of them, looking down the length of that fabric, and they see it. They see the smiling, they see the deflection, and for me, that's really when it makes a lot of sense to use this technology to remove that, because ultimately we want a happy customer, and there's an expectation management there, isn't there? There's you can have this, but you must understand this is how it looks, or you can have this and you can understand that it's significantly better, and yes, there is a cost associated with it, but that then is going to determine the people who are serious about it from the people who are not so concerned about it. So my last question is, why did you decide to partner with Umbra in the UK?
Well, because I think Umbra is very specialized in the roller blinds, and I think they are monitoring also information on the market, and they were contacting me. So they have seen that we came up with an idea, and I have to say they were the early believers that were actively, immediately taking the plane to come to see us to see if it makes sense, and this was a very important thing. I think as you are in the sector, as you know exactly that type of product, I've seen also that you recognize that you immediately have seen that this makes sense, this is solving this can bring this solution. So for us it was very nice it's very nice to cooperate, because you're professionals, you know what it is about. So this is the first thing. The second thing, and it's for us also important, because I like Umbra like being not a big colossal, but a family company, but is an important criteria also, who has a long-term philosophy. I mean, I think when we spoke together, for you, it's very important that your customers are satisfied. You want to help to solve their problems and things like this. So we have a similar approach in this, and I see a long-term future in this type of cooperation, that you really can do something with this solution, and that it makes sense. So that was the reason why we have been actively choosing also for Umbra to partner up for the UK, because we believe in your possibilities and the experience you have in this field.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Bernard. And I think it's fair to say from our side, as soon as we started interacting with you, it felt like there was synergy between our companies. It felt like you were thinking along the same lines that we were, trying to achieve the same outcomes, trying to keep people, trying to make happy customers. And that's, all of that is important to us. So it felt right for us from the start as well, which was just as important for us in that sense, having that supply relationship. So anyway, thank you very much. Really appreciate you taking the time to speak to us and share some of that information and some of those insights. Really appreciated, and we'll look forward to catching up again.
Okay, thanks. It was my pleasure, and I wish you really a lot of success. And I'm definitely convinced that you will make it with this.
Okay, so you've now seen that interview with Bernard, the founder of Beamertech and inventor of the Zoomtech technology behind this. What are your thoughts? Let's take another poll. So you've seen the solution, you've seen the possibilities. You know, hopefully you're all thinking, yeah, I can kind of see where this could go. I could see, I can think of people who would use this. So the poll's going to come up in a moment. Select, number one, if you're excited and you have opportunities for Zoomtech now. Select number two if you're interested and you want to learn more about the Zero technology. And select three if you don't think that the Zero technology is of use or of interest to you. So it'd be very interesting to get some feedback from you. And whilst you're selecting those options, let's also just put in a reminder, please, any questions, please pop them in the chat box. We'll get to a Q&A session at the end of this, and we'll try and answer any of the questions that you put in there. So we're just going to give a couple more seconds to fill that out. Please, if everyone can select it. And okay, let's close that poll and see what the results were. Okay, well, nobody was not interested, so that's great. 30% excited about it and can think of current opportunities, and 70% interested and wanting to learn more. So for those guys, I'm sure that we will be in touch with you soon. So with that, I'm going to hand back over to Nigel.
Thank you, Harry. That's really interesting to see that level of interest. I have to say, as a self-confessed geek when it comes to blinds, I'm not surprised because this is such a revolutionary solution to a long-standing problem. So I've had the privilege of being able to go out into the field and to actually see some case studies. If we could bring up the picture. We've got, this is the one that was featured on the video earlier. And the interesting thing with this is that it wasn't an enormous blind. It's 3.5 meters wide by 1.5 meters high. But you can still see, even with a 65 millimeter tube, which is is an above average robust tube that you would use on blinds of that size, there's still some visible smiling in the fabric. The customer wasn't altogether happy with this blind, not so much due to the look of the fabric, but more due to the fact that in a 100mm blind space pocket that had already been installed in the property, the blind was not able to fully retract. So when it went up, the hem bar didn't completely disappear. And the other interesting factor contributed to by the slight deflection in the tube. So we're talking of maybe 2 or 3 mil of deflection where the tube is dipping in the center. In this scenario, that was exaggerated by the fact that the window head was actually arching very slightly upwards, which I'm sure a lot of you would know is not unusual. And again, within kind of acceptable tolerances, probably only 2 or 3 mil higher in the center than at the ends. But when you combine that 2 or 3 mil arching upwards of the blind box and the 2 or 3 mil deflection downwards of the roller blind, you've got 5 or 6 mil combined, and that's significant. And so it made it very hard to get the cover on. And when the cover was on the blind box, as the blind started to unroll, it was rubbing on the cover and making a noise. And so the customer was just disappointed with the whole outcome. So we got the opportunity to replace the blind with Evolve Zero. Now it's the same fabric that we've used. No Photoshop has been used. That is the replacement blind that went in with Evolve Zero, 44 millimeter tube, zero deflection, beautifully flat fabric. The blind fully retracts into the blind space. The cover fits on. The customer is very happy. And where it gets interesting is that downstairs in the same house, they've got this. This picture shows some of it. This is just one corner. Away to the left, that glazing carries on. You can see what we were talking about earlier, large areas of glazing, very slim frames, very minimal in terms of the frames around the glass. And you can see the groove in the ceiling where they've already got beautifully installed 100mm blind pockets. But the drop is 2.7 meters. How on earth are they going to fit a blind of that size in that pocket? And so these people were actually living in this goldfish bowl with no shading, no privacy, because they just didn't know what to do. Their next door neighbour had basically the same design house, and they'd had roller blinds fitted. And because of the limitations of getting that amount of roll up in the box, they had to use a small tube. And because of that, they hadn't been able to go very wide at all with the blinds. And so they'd put 3 blinds. If you take from the corner to the left there, you've got 2 big panes of glass, it's a sliding door, and they put 3 blinds across there. So you can imagine what that looked like with gaps between the blinds coming about 2/3 of the way along the glass. It looked horrible. And this particular client said, I don't want that, but I don't know what I can have. And so when she'd seen Evolve Zero, she was just delighted that there was a solution where there was no possibility before. Now there's a solution. Similar story with this one. This is a bedroom. This is a large motorized sliding door in 3 sections. You can see the doors open at the moment, so the 2 sections are stacked behind the 3rd one. And it's a master bedroom going out onto a balcony. And the client wanted absolute blackout. So this opening, the full opening of the door, is 5.5 meters across by about 2.8 high. And it had to be done as one blind with no gaps because they wanted complete blackout. They wanted a fully framed blackout blind with zipped side channels. And they wanted the side channels to be concealed in the walls and the cassette or head box to be concealed in the ceiling, so that when the blinds open, you can't see anything. When the blind's closed, all you can see is the fabric. Again, very challenging because the space they had in the head to conceal the whole cassette, roller and fabric complete, maximum was 130mm. So extremely challenging to actually achieve, or beyond challenging, virtually impossible to achieve what they wanted. But thanks to Zoomtech, no longer impossible. That's a very basic smartphone photo. It's not a professional shot. It's not been photoshopped in any shape or form. And as you can see, it's got an LED light strip there washing the blind with light from the top, which, as we know, is the harshest treatment to give to a blind because it'll show up any ripples or wrinkles in the fabric. And I think the picture speaks for itself. And as you look down the side of the fabric as well, again, the fabric looks perfect. It's worth just saying at this point that today's launch is for Evolve Zero, which is our free hanging roller blind that we showed you, the one that's behind me at the moment. That's what we're launching today. Curo Lock Zero, which is our zipped blackout blind system, will be launched later this year. That's phase 2, so watch out for that. More information to come on that.
Very good. Thanks for that, Nigel. So just wanted to put another reminder. Any questions you've got, last opportunity to pop them in the chat box, and we'll get to them very, very shortly. Conscious on the time, so if anybody does need to go, please go for it, but if you can hang on a few minutes, we'll just get some questions answered. A couple of other essential things. We're ready to go in terms of inquiries, quoting, order processing with Evolve Zero. So please send any inquiries through to sales@umbrashading.co.uk. Now, every company that's attended this will get emailed a 10% off your first order discount voucher. So keep an eye out for that very shortly. So there's something that we should probably say in terms of the fabric range. Nigel, do you want to cover that off?
Yeah, I think it's just worth mentioning that the whole point of Evolve Zero is to eliminate deflection, as we've said. So as you can see behind me again, that's a 5 meter wide blind on a 44mm tube with 0 deflection. So the associated smiles or V-shapes that you get in roller blind fabrics because of deflection are also eliminated. But that doesn't mean that Evolve Zero makes a poor fabric into a good fabric. So what I mean by that is if the fabric is inclined to cup at the edges, if it's inclined to be a little bit wavy when it hangs rather than flat, Evolve Zero won't remove that. So it's important to note that for best results, using high quality technical fabrics is going to give you the flattest finish that you can get. Now, we've tested a lot of different fabrics over the last couple of months as we've been working towards this launch, and we've got a range of fabrics which are now approved for use with Evolve Zero, and that covers some blackout, dim out, sunscreen and sheer fabric, so it's a good range, and across a range of budgets. They're not all top end on price, but it's good just to remember that rule of thumb that the better the fabric, the better the end result, the outcome. Does that help answer that?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think it's just important to know that even within the range that we've approved and will be launching, or that we'll be using, there are both budget and premium options, and the premium options you will see the difference with them. So it's good. So we also, with us in the room, we have Marshall, who has been directing affairs. Marshall's looking at any questions that have come in. So Marshall, any questions that you can throw at us?
Thanks, Harry. Yeah, we've got quite a few questions coming in the chat. The first one from Corrado Watney asking, is 5 meters the maximum width? And what's the max drop? We had another question asking, what is the max drop at 5 meters wide?
Okay, so let's break that up. At 5 meters wide, the maximum drop will be around 2.8 meters. 5 meters is currently a maximum width that we're talking about. If Bernard's on the call, then he's probably thinking, well, the sky's the limit, because the technology is that expandable, and ultimately, yes, we will be taking it further. But for the present launch and Evolve Zero, 5 meters wide is what we're going to be talking about. If there's anything slightly over that, we have a means of calculating whether it will work or not. It's very important for people to know that it is a very complex calculation. As you can probably imagine, considering that nobody has come up with a solution before. And so we do check every single blind in terms of, we would run it through a configurator, check every single blind that we're quoting and processing to make sure that the calculation stacks up and all the details are correct on that. So yes, 5 meters, but if you came to me and said, I've got a blind at 5.1 meters, but it's perhaps a shorter drop, then yes, let's put it through the calculator and work out whether it's going to be possible to achieve zero deflection or not. Does that answer that one, Marshall?
Yeah, that's very good. Thanks, Harry. Another question we've got from Lisa is, do you have multiple options of wide width fabric to back up the blind sizes available?
Yep. So the answer is we do have a number of options. That range of options will be getting wider. Do you think, Nigel?
Yes, it's a very good question, because of course when you make wide blinds you generally have to turn the fabric or railroad it, and so if you want to avoid a join, then you have to use a wide fabric, and within the range we've got, the widest fabric we've got is 4.1 meters, but we've got a number of fabrics at 3.5, 3, 3.2. So yes, we do have some good options there, and I think just going back to the previous question about the maximum drop, if I heard the question right, the maximum drop at 5 meters is about 2.8, depending a little bit on the weight of the fabric. But as the width comes in, so as we come down to 4.5 meters, 4 meters, then obviously the drop that we can go to increases. So again, send us your inquiries, sales@umbrashading.co.uk, and we're live, ready to quote.
That's good. Thanks for that. Got anything else there, Marshall?
Yeah, there's a whole load more. I don't think we'll have time to answer them all, but Morris has asked, will there be a price list?
Yes, there will be. Immediately, the quoting or the pricing option is send it to us, but yes, there will be a price list quite imminently.
Thanks, Harry. There's also a number of questions here about what motors will be available. Lee Gunn, keen to know what motor options there will be. And also a question around what's the maximum size for battery roller blinds and how does it affect battery life?
Okay, so in terms of motor options, wide range of motor options. Most, if not all, of our present motor options will be options with Evolve Zero. So anything that you currently buy from us. In terms of battery, So as we said, the blind behind us, 5 meters wide by 2.1, has a battery motor in it and works very, very well. Yes, of course, it does affect the battery life. In terms of by how much is obviously, it's impossible to say because it depends entirely on the size of blind, the weight of fabric, how often you use it. There's a lot of factors, but yes, battery is entirely possible with a blind of this size.
It's worth saying that the motor that's in this blind is a new motor that we'll be bringing out soon, which is significantly more powerful and significantly longer battery life than anything that's in our range currently. But watch this space, more information to come on that.
Yeah, that's good.
Thank you. Do we have time for one more question?
Go for it.
Another one here from Lisa is, I assume the blind size required determines the tube diameter that the blind needs. Can you clarify that?
Yeah, well, that's an interesting question because in this particular instance, I know traditionally that would always be the case, but in this instance, we can make blinds right from whatever our minimum width is based on the control type, right up to 5 meters wide on the 44mm tube, which obviously means that you can get around a residential property, you can get consistent tube sizes, consistent travel speed of motors, consistent roll up across the whole property, almost regardless of the blind size. Do you want to talk about 52mm tube as well?
Yes, it's. I'll be honest that it takes a little bit to get your head around when you've been used to this concept of the bigger the blind, the bigger the tube. Zero actually turns that on its head, because the bigger the tube, the heavier the tube, and therefore the more it deflects under its own weight, and therefore the harder the Zero technology has to work to counteract that deflection, to compensate for it. So actually, although Evolve Zero is available in 44mm and 52mm tube, we can actually go wider on the 44mm tube than we can on the 52, because the 44mm tube is lighter weight. It kind of turns the whole thing on its head to what we've been used to in the blinds industry for as long as I've known it. But the 52mm tube is available for the scenario where you might have a blind, let's say 2.5 meters, without the Zero technology. And so you have it on a 52mm tube to have it as flat as possible. And then you might have a 4 or 4.5 meter wide blind that you want to match. And that's when you might use the 52mm tube. But in general, the 44mm tube is the default tube for Zero, and can be used right all the way up to 5 meters wide.
Good. Does that answer the question, Marshall?
Yeah, I think that's very good. Just to confirm as well, those are the only two tube sizes available at the moment on Evolve Zero, is the 44 and the 52.
Very good. So I think our time is up, and we'd like to say a very big thank you to everybody that's joined us. We really hope it was helpful and informative. I hope it was interesting, and hopefully it was exciting, because we certainly found it exciting. So we'll look forward to hearing from you and talking to you more about it. And please, again, be free to share this product on social media, talk about this experience this afternoon, and please tag us in if you do so. Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us. The slide coming up will show you the link to our website where there's some more information about Evolve Zero. And a reminder again that the email address is sales@umbrashading.co.uk to send us any inquiries or further questions you have.